as we keep going, but I want to respect everybody's time. It's 12:30, and welcome to Resilience in the Face of Stress. And excuse me, my name is Wendy Gantt, and I'm a community education specialist here in Wake County for Alliance Health. And today's presentation training is an hour, but I don't want anyone to feel like it's overly formal. So if you have a question, please unmute yourself, interrupt me, put it in the chat. I'm going to try to monitor all of that, and we will get going. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It's fine if you want to have your cameras off, cameras on, whatever you're most comfortable with, and we'll get going. So I wanted to let everyone know that at the end, for all participants today, I'm going to send out just a generic certificate of attendance in case you need any kind of contact hours. They're not CEUs, but it's contact hours, and so hopefully that'll benefit you if that's what you need. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get started. All right. Okay. So, resilience in the face of stress. And we're going to talk a little bit about COVID, and we're going to talk about some research and some other factors to take into account when it comes to resilience. Let's see. Now I'm trying to figure out how to get my slide to advance. Enter's not working. That's not working. Hold on. Let me try this again. Okay. All right, so who is Alliance? If you don't know who we are the local managed care entity. We serve individuals who have Medicaid or who are uninsured, and then we do provide some state and locally funded supports. We do have a 1-800 number that is 24/7, 365. So next, we are also right now managing the Hope for North Carolina grant. It's a crisis counseling helpline. Each MCO is managing this FEMA grant for their area. And so if you know folks who, may need some supports, this is a great number for just to talk to somebody or to help find some resources. We also have the Hope for Healers. That is also free emotional support from for the folks on the front lines, for therapists, for teachers, medical providers, anyone who's on those front lines. So that is also useful, and there's the number right there. So this is the definition of resilience. It means bouncing back from difficult experiences. Pretty cut and dry. So if you're comfortable unmuting yourself and just calling out, tell me what you think impacts our resilience. Anyone?
Family.
Family, absolutely. Anything else?
Support systems.
Yes, absolutely. Any other factors you think have an impact?
Drama.
Did you say drama? Trauma. Sorry, I think it's trauma. Yes, I definitely.
Previous, yeah.
Previous, what now? Does anybody think genetics or DNA have an impact?
Physical fitness.
Oh, that's interesting.
Fitness.
That's a great one. Absolutely. I could definitely see that. Absolutely. That's great. Thanks, everybody. That's great. So, where can I get some resilience? If we think about it as something that we build for ourselves and for our children, it can be based on personal history. Someone said trauma, environment. Someone said family, and also on genetics. That is another factor that can be important. The most significant factor is the quality of our relationships, and that is really important. Someone said support system, and I really think that, especially for kids, that has such a long-term big impact on us, which is great. So our temperament also plays a role in how we bounce back from adversities. Someone said your physical fitness. And so paying attention to our bodies, that is a really key factor. Stress is a huge factor. And I don't think that there are very many of us right now in this time that haven't experienced at least a little bit of stress in the past year. Just so much is impacting us on day to day. And so there is a researcher, and when I send your certificates, I'll also send a link to some of the articles that I reference, just in the event that you want to geek out and read more about some of the research that I talk about today. And so there is a doctor who wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's probably one of the best books on trauma, resilience, and children. And he really refers to resilience as a set of skills that can be often learned. Part of the skill building comes from exposure to very difficult but manageable experiences. So, we have to have some of these bumps in the road to build and equip ourselves and get ourselves ready for resilience. So one set of research that's been going on, I don't think for very long, but there's a thought that when you're born, we have the orchids and we have the dandelions. And that's a pretty recent study. So there's an article from Psychology Today that I was reading in this about, and it's called Why Some Children Are Orchids and Others Are Dandelions. So many children can actually thrive in pretty much any environment, while others may only flourish under pretty favorable conditions. So some of us can be a little bit more higher risk than others. And so the dandelions are the children who can flourish in some challenging situations, and the orchids are the children who really need things to be pretty chill, pretty perfect most of the time. And they're much, much more fragile, just like an orchid is. It needs so much specific care. And I'm not a person who's ever had orchids because I've never known, myself to be able to be enough of a green thumb to be able to get them to come back year after year. And so I think dandelions are a little bit easier. So anyway, so many children are able, I already read this to you.
Comparing children.
So scientists believe that sensitivity and resilience to stress is determined by genes. That's what these researchers actually believe. The presence or absence of a specific gene variant makes a child emotionally delicate, like the fragile orchid that needs lots of TLC to thrive, or resilient, like the robust dandelion that flowers even in the harshest of environments. So there was a study done a while back that there was a correlation between when we're born, they do what's called an APGAR score, and those are, our breathing, and they look at, are you blue, are you pink, they're looking at your breathing patterns and some of these health markers. And I think they do it at like 2 minutes and 10 minutes. And so you get these 2 APGAR scores. And so studies have shown a correlation of a newborn's APGAR scores and teacher reports of developmental abilities. Epigenetics, which there's a lot of research that's been going on with epigenetics in the past few years. And that really ties back to traumas and different adversities imprinting on our DNA. And it can be passed from generation to generation. And so it's not an automatic trajectory for a child. If, let's say, I don't know, there's a family where there's a history of abuse and maybe children living in foster care, and subsequent generations may be born and raised under different conditions where there's not that abuse and there are not multiple systems involved. And that child, you know, most likely is going to be perfectly fine. But there are high risks that because that trauma or those instances have imprinted epigenetically, there could be a propensity for next generations. So there's been a lot of studies of children in foster care, and you can easily look those up. Those are all over the internet. So we know that genes and social contacts are definitely factors that play a big role in this research. So this article is called "What Makes Some People More Resilient Than Others?" And for the most part, the most significant determinant of resilience in this research, it's noted in every review or study of resilience in the past 50 years. And it's the quality of our personal relationships. And for whoever said those support systems and family, that is exactly right. So our early attachments to our parents play a huge lifelong role. Again, I'm a big person who I'm very interested in nurturing and attachment and young child and infant mental health. And I really do believe those abilities of a parent to meet some of those basic social and nurturing needs is so crucial in building some, you know, of these potential resiliency factors in kids. And so it really, really is crucial. Sorry, tongue-tied. So here's a quote from Bessel van der Kolk. And he says, "How loved you felt as a child is a great predictor of how you manage all kinds of difficult situations later in life." So we really are laying that foundation for children by just providing, you know, some basic nurturing and positive parenting tools. So when we think about how in this time, if we just, you know, isolate year 2020 and we think about how we are filling our toolbox with coping strategies to help us be resilient, you know, on the other side, how we're going to bounce out of this, whenever that is. Maybe it's hopefully next summer or whenever. But tell me what you think or what you use in your toolboxes that help you manage your stress and make you more resilient. And I can't see the chat box, or maybe I can. You can, oh, it's not showing up for whatever reason. So are you comfortable with calling out?
Wendy, I can manage your chat box for you.
Are you here, Becky?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Becky.
No
Yes.
problem.
Oh, you're my lifesaver. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Becky. Sorry, that's my teammate from Johnson County. When I do these presentations, I get a little nervous that things could go sideways or get kicked off the internet, and I always worry.
Monica's saying meditation and exercise. We have another that has said exercise.
Okay. Any others?
I'm relying on my supports. Elena says therapy.
Great. Is anybody willing to share any negative coping strategies? I will be the first. I will nervously eat carbohydrates or drink a glass of wine or binge on a TV show on Netflix.
Sugar.
Yep.
Binge eating. You have another binge eating.
Yeah.
Sleeping too much or even maybe sleeping too little.
Okay. Yep. Anybody else? All right.
Facebook, too much social media.
That is a great one to share. That can really kind of get us spinning, right? Especially if we're reading, you know, there's this study or, you know, eat this food or, you know, whatever it is, it can definitely take us down a dark path sometimes. Because not as often these days are people posting their dogs and their children and things like that. I think that's just kind of where we are right now. So these are some others. Someone said social connections. Yes, it's so crucial that we try to stay as connected as we possibly can. So these are just some examples, positive and negatives, of things that people use. You know, a lot of folks exercise. I did a community event Saturday at the Southeast Raleigh YMCA. We were giving out information in food boxes. And there was, it seemed like a 2-hour aerobics class, but man, there was a large group and they were having the best time. And I'm thinking, they probably felt amazing after that. And it was such a positive experience. So things like that are really good for us. You know, online shopping. Think about the folks or maybe neighbors that you see every day have a trove of Amazon boxes on their porch. I mean, you know, sometimes in boredom, we gravitate to maybe some things that aren't as good for us. But how we're able to cope really depends on what's in our toolbox. So some of us have, you know, negative, some have positive, some of us balance things out. So it's not, you know, mutually exclusive or a, you know, this or that. And so we want to really balance things out. And I think flexibility right now in this time is crucial because, you know, I texted Becky last night, her children are in school in Johnston County and they're going, I mean, boom, on the fly, they're all going back to remote learning. And she had the best attitude. She's like, you know, it's probably for the best. And that's a perfect example of her having the flexibility and that mindset of, you know what, I'm going to figure it out however I need to figure it out. And so that is an excellent trait for us to have. So there were interviews done with large numbers of highly resilient individuals. And many of them had experienced a great deal of adversity and come through those things successfully. A lot of them reported having a positive outlook. They try not to dwell on negative information. They look for opportunities when things are really challenging. They have a moral compass. They have a solid sense of what they consider right and wrong. So that's a characteristic. They think of something, you know, really outside of themselves, or they believe in something greater than themselves. And so that, you know, it's found through spiritual practices, religious practices, having, you know, that faith. They're also altruistic. They have concern for others and a degree of selflessness. And I definitely think in this year, it has tested our altruism, whether it's just texting a neighbor or leaving a sticky note on an elderly neighbor's door, asking if they need groceries if you're going, or picking up extra toilet paper for someone who maybe you saw on Facebook hasn't been able to find any. So really, I think we found some really unique ways to extend outside of ourselves in this time. They also report that they accept what they can't change and focus energy on what they can change. And one thing that I have a slide that I'll show you a little bit later that is really going to show us what we can control and what we can't control and how to balance those out. And social supports are also so crucial. Rarely can a person go it alone and really tackle a lot of challenging things. So folks like to tell us, just relax, you know, just get over it. That's really hard to do. And so we've got to, again, have that toolbox and other strategies. So are we, you know, using supportive language with others? Are we asking questions? Are we asking how we can help? Are we asking what other people may need? And this can just be in the context of the people we live with or who, you know, our support system is. And are we doing our part? Those kind of are good questions. Instead of just telling someone to get over it or just relax or, you know, it's going to get better. We want to do a little bit more problem solving and supportive listening. That'll definitely get us a lot further along. So, stress resilience. And if anybody has a question, please put it in the chat. And Becky can call me out and I'll definitely stop for a second. So just let me know. So there was another study that was in an article on brainfacts.org, and it talks about stress resilience. And so when we think about that concept, we think about how we effectively cope with stressors, and we get back to our, called our baseline or homeostasis, or kind of our average functioning, because, we peak and valley in our stress, absolutely. And when it becomes really unhealthy for us is when we're, on 10 all the time. We definitely want to get ourselves back to that baseline. So, an example. Let's say, I had this PowerPoint, or you had a presentation on your laptop and it disappears. Our natural reaction is to freak out and to stress. And that's natural. Some stress is facilitated for us, and it gets us moving and it gets us productive. But when it's excessive and long-term, of course, it becomes distress. And that's where things get negative. And so sometimes how we perceive these stressful events is, has a really big impact on how we can bounce back. And so our perception of the situation is really, it's a big deal when it comes to this. So what we want to do is we want to think about our stress responses. How do we respond? How do we recover? What do we do to get back to that normal? Is it self-talk? Is it, we journal? Is it we problem solve? Is it, we ask for help? So we have to think about what we need, because we're all different. So when we think about children and stress, there's positive stress. That's normal daily stress, critical to normal develop. It's critical also to help children handle adversity. There's something called tolerable stress. That's longer lasting stressors, but the effects are buffered by supportive relationships. So let's say a family, the person who has an income loses their job. That can be a long-term stressor for a child. And if there's a supportive, family set in place, chances are that child's going to come out fine on the other side. Or let's say a child has a serious illness and there's family, faith, and a supportive community. That child's going to come out okay on the other side, most likely. Then there's something called toxic stress. Those are prolonged stressful situations or conditions like chronic homelessness, exposure to domestic violence, physical, sexual abuse, things like that would be considered toxic stress. Even poverty can be considered toxic stress. And these are impactful when there is an absence of protective factors and relationships. So that is really crucial. And we do have so many children. If you know about ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, those can fall into some of these tolerable stresses and toxic stress situations. And really that supportive, connected relationship is what's most crucial. So these are some of the symptoms of stress and effects on the body. Some folks grind their teeth. Hush, shh. I apologize if you hear a dog bark. Apathy, difficulty concentrating, anger, anxiety, headaches, muscle tension. A lot of folks have, gastrointestinal issues, rashes, hives, things like that. And some folks are just exhausted all the time. And so that can have a huge impact on our mood. And it definitely can have an impact on our blood pressure, our heart rate, our cholesterol, and things like that. And so we have to think about not just in the moment outcomes, but long-term physical health outcomes. All right. So these are, a couple of things, that are really important to try to incorporate into every day, if at all possible, are laughing, gratitude, exercise, healthy foods. Oh, sorry. Shh, shh. I'm not saying every meal you have has to be healthy, but trying to incorporate fruits and vegetables are crucial during this time. Sleep, calm, quiet, and balanced sleep is so important in this time. So when we think about the domains of resilience, what's our vision, our purpose, our goals, our congruence? How are we getting along with others? How are we seeing ourselves at the end of what's going on right now with COVID? What are our positive support networks? Who are we connected to? How are we managing, how we see the outside world, or maybe how others are seeing us? We think about tenacity, and I think persistence is really important. We want to be realistic that we don't know when schools are going to be back in person, or when we'll be able to go back to our offices, or have anything we feel like is relatively normal. And so that's really important for us to embrace. Our health, we just talked about nutrition, sleep, trying to get some exercise, getting outside, even for just a slow walk is exceptional. It's really good for us. So, I think some of the hard ones are regulating our emotions. It's tough being at home trying to balance kids. Right now, me balancing dogs, and everything else that we're juggling, and stay calm. But if we can figure out at least positive ways to, keep as much of that baseline for us as possible, then hopefully it's going to be more positive in the long run. And then our reasoning. How resourceful are we? Do we have a plan? Have we been stocking up on toilet paper? Have we, found Lysol? Or, do we have a plan when it comes to the kids? I mean, I feel like we have so many other things on our plate right now that we try to balance. And so, of course, the families that we're supporting, the people that we're meeting in the community, our neighbors, our family, everybody else, I think that, they're having an impact too. Hold on, I'm going to open a door and let that dog out. Excuse me, 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. This happens every time I train. Sorry. All right. So we have a resiliency scale. We all have hard things and good things. And I think this is a great visual if you're working with families or individuals. And, this is a good visual. Even if you're doing outpatient therapy or whatever it is, this is a great thing that you could draw out. And I think folks can easily, write about or draw what are the hard things going on right now and what are the good things. And so we have our fulcrum right there in the middle, and we want to figure out what are the hard things that we can let go of or alleviate. And so, we want to unload some of the hard things if at all possible so that our fulcrum has us more in balance. And this is something visual that, I think a lot of folks can look at and say, okay, I can not do this or I can do this and help balance things out. So we can lighten our load on the negative side of the resilience scale by reducing sources of stress. And sometimes that's hard for families to do. Absolutely. Many organizations are already doing this and can draw on their experience to prepare for possible future periods of physical distancing and shutdown. Reducing sources of stress may be helping families meet their basic needs like food, shelter, diapers, healthcare, childcare, and internet access, or connecting them to programs that will. And I think we're very lucky here, at least in our catchment area, because we are very rich with resources. There are so many opportunities for families to access food. That, of course, there's never going to be enough financial support, but at least we do have a robust kind of host of resources to try to connect families to. So we want to guide families towards financial assistance, try to provide child activities like coloring books. I know through Hope for North Carolina, we have coloring books that we've been giving out in the community, and they've been really popular. Craft supplies, finding ways or suggestions to help parents find a break, even if it's just within your safe circle of people, mom gets to take a 15-minute walk or dad does or whatever without the kids. we've got to think outside the box and get a little creative with families and with individuals that we're supporting. So we want to encourage parents, program staff, coworkers, our neighbors, our friends, our family to practice self-care. And I feel like that's kind of the buzzword of 2020. Everybody talks about self-care. And that has to be defined by yourself. What does that look like? Even if it's just taking a few minutes to yourself, going for a walk, taking a nap, listening to music, meditating, whatever it is. We want folks to figure out how, of course, to get back to that baseline of functioning, because we know that folks in the mental health and substance use and developmental disability communities, they have a lot of comorbid health conditions, and we want them to be as less high stress as possible, even though we know they have a lot of hard things on their seesaw right now. But again, we have to think about those long-term health conditions that can have a really big impact. And so we want to help them, you know, lighten some of those hard things as all, or at least try to figure out how we can load up good things to help balance those things out. And if that looks like resources or activities for kids or food supplies and things like that, hopefully that's going to tip the scale just a little bit. So does anybody have any questions? All right. So right now in the pandemic, we're talking about how to be resilient, which is really, really a tough thing. We want everyone to stay safe, whatever that looks like, however that works. And I know the big push right now, and the governor changed the curfew yesterday because our numbers are rising. And I was talking to a friend who is a social worker at a hospital here locally, and she said it's COVID, COVID, COVID all day, every day as far as cases coming in. And one thing just to remember is, you know, have folks wear a mask. Try to figure out how to get masks so that children and families in the community have the resources that they need. And so we can't just assume that everybody has access to these things. So we want to take care of those basic needs again, and that's the food, clothing, shelter, things like that. And again, we come back to that stress. We've got to figure out how to balance out that seesaw for ourselves and for individuals that we support. Because if we're overly stressed, we're not going to be able to give as much of ourselves to others who may need us. And getting outside is crucial. And I have to say I'm very guilty. I do not go outside as much as I should. It's cold right now. I'm a warm weather summer person. And definitely, even for a short period of time, just breathing in some fresh air is really good for us. And so once again, there's that connectedness. And so we really, really, really want folks to check in with others, whether it's having FaceTime or a Zoom with a family member, a best friend, even, you know, a coworker that you like, just being connected. That also lets us kind of gauge how people in our life are doing. You know, if you're connecting with someone and it doesn't look like they've had a shower in a week or two, that's a red flag. Or if they let you know that they're sleeping 20 hours a day, that's also a red flag. So we really want to pay attention to those that we care about and how they're responding in this hard time. And so, you know, we want to be as supportive as possible and ask folks what they may need. And we, you know, we have to find unique ways to do that. We don't want to be calling folks out or, you know, things like that. We want to be as active in our listening and support as we can. And so when we look at focusing on things that you can control, we have to be strategic about that, because you know, the social media comment earlier, that is, that's an easy way to go down a rabbit hole and perseverate on things that we really, really are worried about. And that's an easy way to get ourselves really stressed out. And so, let's see. One little fun fact is that as we are stressed in this time, some of us may have an oxytocin deficit. This is our love hormone. And so when we can't hug our friends and we can't do some of the interactive activities that we like to do. Yeah, I like to hug my friends and, you know, my hairdresser and folks like that. You know, it's a way to connect with folks, and we can't do that anymore. Elbow bumps are just not as satisfying. And so what we may feel weird about, but making eye contact for 1 or 2 seconds actually can help get a little surge of our oxytocin levels. If we can make eye contact with our dogs, if you can get your cat to make eye contact with you, I know mine, she's very flippant and doesn't make eye contact, but my dog definitely will. That's a way to build a little oxytocin. And so we have to look at some unique ways to try to get our needs met and feel connected. So that does work. Just a little fun fact. So, you know, maybe you're stressed and, you know, a card game or a board game or a game of tag with your kids, something that may feel silly, may help really lift a mood when things are really hard. So I cannot control and I can control. So I think this is, you know, a good graphic as far as things to remember or things to help others remember. You know, we can't control whether there's toilet paper at Target or not. We, you know, can't control, and I'll be very honest here. When I go to a store and folks either don't have masks on or they're not wearing masks properly, I can feel my blood pressure rise. It really stresses me out. And so, you know, I need to probably just call more pickup orders. And so that will probably be a safer and calmer way for me to do things. We can't control the actions of others. You know, we have a lot of folks with a lot of opinions and feelings and philosophies, and really what we can control is what we're doing. And so, you know, we want to be as safe and we want to, you know, keep our loved ones as safe as possible. And we would just want to encourage folks to be safe.
Could be 15 plus hours, $15.
What now?
Okay.
Did somebody have a question or comment?
Dan just said all their jobs are going to be 15 or more.
Oh, Deborah, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. I didn't know if you were having a personal conversation. Sorry. Anyway, so we have no idea what's going to happen. You know, we don't know other people's motives. We don't know their experiences, and we don't know their situations. And so we also can't control how others are going to react in situations. And if we can remind ourselves of the things, you know, I took a training once where they talked about how there's 3 teacups. And, you know, there's the outside world, they can stir their teacup. There's our teacup where we can kind of control what we can do. And then there's kind of the universe's teacup. And those, you know, the outside world and the universe, we really have no control over that. And so if we focus on stirring our own teacup, it really leads to more positive outcomes and definitely lowers our stress. And so if we can try to focus on our positive attitudes, focus on the CDC recommendations, focus on our own social distancing, you know, focus on being, you know, graceful and kind and helping others if we can. And I think it's interesting talking about limiting my social media, because yes, I'll get stuck on Twitter, or, oh my gosh, I can get lost on TikTok watching cooking and dancing and things like that forever. And then all of a sudden 2 hours have passed and I've accomplished nothing. So I'm definitely trying to get better at some of these things. And I think it's easy for us to just kind of make a list or strategize, and we're not perfect. It's a day-to-day thing. So we're going to do the best we can. So this also ties back to our fulcrum, because, you know, if we're letting go of things we can't control, those are sometimes hard things for us, and that helps balance out that seesaw for us. And if we're focusing on things that we can control, hopefully that's gonna, you know, help our good things rise a little bit. So going back to the Hope for North Carolina, if you go onto the DHHS website, they talk about Scoop. That's kind of, and it's funny, Becky and I, our director, James, he reminds us to scoop all the time now. You know, I emailed him last week and told him, I don't know, something didn't work out, and he's like, scoop. And so that's kind of his go-to advice now. stay connected. Have compassion for ourselves and for others. I think that's really important. We have to observe our use of substances, whether that's smoking, coffee, caffeine, alcohol, other things. We have to kind of, put a check on that. Knowing it's okay to ask for help, and then increase or get some physical activity to help boost our mood. And so this is on the DHHS website. They developed this, and I think it's a good, it's a good plan just to remind folks to do. All right. So, parenting during a pandemic. I think this is definitely a really large, hard thing box for some folks. I feel very lucky that I have teenagers. And so I have so much compassion and admiration for parents right now with little ones who are trying to manage preschool, elementary school, even middle school for their kids, especially if there's more than one child in the house. It's a lot. And we have so many families right now who, maybe there's a family living in a hotel with 4 kids and all 4 children are trying to get online to learn. That's an impossibility on some days, I would imagine. And so I do know that there are families who have just kind of given up on school because they are just focused on surviving. And we've got to give some grace to that and at least try to figure out when things are better to help kids get the support and catch up or whatever that they need. But it is so hard right now to be a parent. So in the event, I think this goes for all of us supporting other parents is, the kids need a lot of encouragement, but I think the parents need even more encouragement just to keep trying and do the best they can. And I think it's really important to encourage parents to communicate with their school or their teacher and ask for help because it's not always working out. I'll disclose, I have a child with ADHD and she can get distracted and be on her phone or whatever. And I know she's not paying attention to biology. She's in 9th grade. So here she's trying to navigate high school and, do it virtually. And so, there's been a great resource at her school and I just let that teacher know when I think she needs a little extra help and maybe she's too shy to ask for that help. So try to use the resources or encourage parents to connect with, even that one person at a school that can help them out. We want to prepare kids, and I think this is for any age. I think right now in the time of certainty, we want transitions to be easier. So we want to let kids know, what's the plan for today or even for the week? What's our family plan or, what's your school plan or what this, that, and the other. I think that gives them a better sense of security and lowers their stress a little bit. If at all possible, play with your kids, and I think, again, board game, card games, Legos, getting on the floor and coloring, playing tag, for little kids, any of that is going to go a long way. And it's a good way to check out and be a kid again for us and ourselves. We want to give good, clear directions. And so we also want to gauge, the kid's mood. How are they doing? What are they struggling with? And then give our directions and supports accordingly based on where they're kind of functioning. The kids are really struggling right now. We want to take a step back. We may need to loosen our expectations just a little bit and acknowledge that stuff is really hard. So if your child forgets to do something, maybe give them an extra reminder, just give them a little bit of grace. And if at all possible, we want to try to be as non-reactive as possible. Because again, if you're in a home with children or extended family or whomever your connected group is, tensions can run high. People can get frustrated. Moods can definitely shift on a dime. And so take a time out, take a deep breath. Use all these coping strategies that we teach kids and, put in your earbuds, take a walk around the block, whatever those things are so that, we don't raise the tensions if at all possible. Again, there's that reset and move on. You know, in a way, we're all kind of stuck together, and we want to give as much grace, and especially with kids, is say, you know what, you messed up. We're going to keep it moving, and you're going to do better. You know, some kids are really struggling academically. We teach children as a society to learn in a group and to get help as a group. And so they're having to redo everything, and they can't ask, you know, their kids, a friend sitting next to them for a help if they maybe missed a concept, or meet after school with a teacher, things like that. And so again, you just have to give that grace. So I'll go to the last slide, and then hopefully we, if there's any questions or discussions, we definitely can have that in the last 10 minutes. So who do we want to be during COVID? And I think a lot of these are applicable to beyond COVID as well. So, you know, I think a lot of folks are going back to the fear zone. I don't think that you can be a little bit of fear, a little bit of learning, a little bit of growth. And I think you can vacillate each day, month, week, or whatever. But I do think when this all kind of started, a lot of us were really scared. You know, are we going to be able to get what we need? How am I going to get the medications I need? You know, am I spreading good information or bad information? Am I passing along every conspiracy theory out there? Am I really checking sources to make sure I'm not scaring my friends and neighbors? And am I whining and complaining about everything? That's an easy hole to get into. And sometimes we get stuck there, and that's okay. And then hopefully we move a little, you know, and realize, you know what, I'm going to find toilet paper. I'm going to find some cleaning supplies. It's going to work out eventually. You know, I don't need to hoard everything. Am I checking in with myself and my family? You know, how's everybody doing today? On a scale of 1 to 10, where are we? What's the temperature here? Are we a 2 today and just nothing's really going right? Or are we checking in and gosh, it's just a tough day today? So I really think getting in touch with your feelings, that's a cheesy saying, but really checking with ourselves to, you know, it's okay to go in the shower and cry and say, gosh, it's a rough week. That's okay. But again, with those supports, we're gonna get over that hump, and we're gonna do better. We want to be more aware of our situations and how we think, respond, react, and maybe take a little more time to evaluate, you know, best ways to approach situations. If someone forwards you an article and you're scared a little bit, research it. See if it's valid. Okay, are there other studies saying that this is the situation? And just see, you know, how factual is this? And again, I think there's just really a small basket of underlying factors that are going to help us get through this and help us help others get through this. And we have to recognize that people are doing the best they can. We really do. So what we hope for ourselves and for others is to really move to a growth zone where we can thank and appreciate others, even for the smallest acts. We want to try to be, you know, I'm not one to say, you know, you want to fake being happy, but try to find some things that bring you joy, and at least be as hopeful as possible, because really at the core of all of us having wellness is having hope. So we want to look for ways to adapt to change. And I do know that not all families who work have the most flexible work situations. You know, there are a lot of folks who are forced to go to work whether they feel well or not, because they have to feed their children. And so we have to support, you know, families and community as best as we can. So we want to have that empathy. We want to live in the present. Definitely. We want to try to, you know, figure out what are those good things so we can balance out that seesaw. I have to say, I thought that when COVID started, I was going to learn how to play the ukulele. And I tried, I failed, I gave up. I'm left-handed, and there are a lot of things that are just harder for me. I broke a string, gave up, put it down. So I'm not a musician. I'm not going to be going on tour with Jack Johnson next year. So, oh well. I will move on. And one thing I know I'm good at is I'm really good at crafting. So I make wreaths and I paint some things and do stuff like that. And that's my talent, and that's what I'm going to stick to. So I'm 54 and I'm going to stay in my bubble. And so, you know, one thing I think that's really important is thinking of others and figuring out ways to help, whether that is again, an elderly neighbor, a mom, you know, who's struggling with teaching her kids. We just have to figure out unique and I think new ways. And so I think that's so crucial for all of us in this time. And I think what's most important is asking for help. A lot of us, I know on this training right now, you are helpers, you know, you are folks who are either in the community or virtually doing the hard work of mental health, substance use, you know, juvenile justice, parent education, all those things. And so we have to take care of ourselves as much as we are helping families take care of themselves. So I think that's really, you know, really a crucial thing for us to remember is how we're going to do that for ourselves and give ourselves a lot of grace. So I think this definitely gives us, you know, changes ahead. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to be. Oh, I see somebody says bake more. That is a fantastic idea. I'm not a good baker, but I do the best I can. I bake from a box. But, you know, change is inevitable. And again, again, I think about Becky again. I saw last night on Twitter that Johnston County is going remote. And my understanding is that, you know, parents don't get a lot of notice to prepare for this. And so, you know, seeing her try to adapt with 3 kids under 7, it's a miracle. And I have nothing but praise and admiration for her. So that's the end of our slides. And I wanted to get through those quickly so that we can have time. We have about 8 minutes for any questions or comments or anything else folks want to share. And you can take yourself off mute. You can put it in chat, whatever you would like. Anybody? Hey, Deneen. Any questions about any of the research? Or does anybody have a great story they want to tell about a family they've worked with or a situation they've experienced in this time? Y'all are very quiet. All right, so if anybody does not have questions or comments, I think we're done. And I do appreciate everyone. I will have a list of everyone's, thank you, Deneen. I will have a list of everyone's email addresses, and I will send information to all of you regarding a certificate of attendance. And I really appreciate everyone's attention and their participation today. And I hope everybody stays safe and healthy this holiday season. I know we're all doing the best that we can. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Deneen, for being my backups.
I was a little late, but I came.
Oh, come on. Well, you know, we just don't know what's going to happen, do we?
You never know.
No, yeah, not these days. Nope. Yes, if somebody wants the copy of slides, let me know. Nanette, just email me.
Wendy, can you send me a copy? I actually will
Sure.
borrow a little bit of it.
Absolutely.
Tonight.
Actually,
Okay.
I'll just attach them and all the notes to my email that has the certificates. How about that?
Okay, great. All
Great.
right.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.